Hello and welcome to Luke's juggling tutorial number 2. This time I'm going to be talking about costumes, and not just about what kind of costumes to wear, because that's a whole show, a whole tutorial, a whole workshop in itself about what to actually wear. I'm going to talk a bit about avoiding problems with your costume, and there's a few reasons for this. First of all, if you make a mistake on stage and any agent watching you is going to go, oh, he's not a very good juggler, or she's not a very good juggler, they dropped a lot. And also, if you don't look fantastic on stage, they'll also think, well, I'm not going to represent that person in the future because they don't look good. Now, a lot of the times these two issues are connected, because a lot of the times when I see people performing on stage for the first time, or even for the second or third or fourth time, I realise that a lot of the mistakes that they make with their juggling is because of their costume. And you can see that they've never performed, or they've never worn their costume outside of that first time they've performed while wearing the costume. They've never practiced with their costume. So what I'm going to do in this little tutorial is run through all of the things that I wear on stage normally, and show all the kind of things that can go wrong, and the things that have gone wrong with my costume over the years, and the kind of things that you need to be thinking about and changing about your costume to avoid problems. Like I say, don't learn from your own mistakes, learn from my mistakes. And you may be thinking, hey Luke, your costume is very simple, you just wear a suit. Yes, I do just wear a suit on the stage, but I put a lot of thought into it, and here's the key. Every time you change something, or as soon as you get your costume, run through your routine 3 or 4 times to make sure it's suitable. Then if you change anything about your costume, run through your routine another 3 or 4 times to make sure it's suitable. And then if you change anything about your routine, also run through your routine 3 or 4 times with your costume on to make sure the change doesn't affect the costume and the costume doesn't affect any of the changes. It's very important. You don't want to find out about this kind of thing on stage. So I'm going to run through a few of the things that I found out about on stage, which isn't the kind of time you should be thinking about them. But first of all, here we go. Jacket. Looks like an old jacket. It's a tailored, specially tailored jacket. It's worth it to get a tailored jacket, or you spend the money on the costume. See this hat here? $250 for the hat. You may think, oh, that's a lot, but you know, if you're looking for professional work, that'll pay itself back in maybe a quarter of a gig. I get paid, well, I'm not going to go into how much money I get paid, but a hat at $250 for me is worth it, just to work at a professional level. So, a tailored suit. When I got this tailored, there was a few things that I changed about it from my previous suits that I've worn. First of all, when you catch a club here in your hand is empty. But as soon as you start moving your arm around, this part of the sleeve comes up and covers there, which catches on the knobs of the club. And as you can see here, it doesn't with my jacket, because when I got it tailored, the tailor measured down to there, and I was like, aha, not to there, to about there. So I took about 3 centimeters off the suit, so the arms don't get in. Another thing I specifically asked for, of course, is non-crease material. So now I just take it out of my bag, hang it up for a few hours, and I don't need to do any ironing. But sometimes on the trousers I have to do a bit of ironing, but otherwise non-crease is it's worth its money just for the amount of time I don't have to prepare beforehand. Another thing is that previous suits that I wore had slits up here, so it had tails, which looked fantastic, because when you spin around they sort of fly out, you know, when you do a pirouette. Looks really great, except that they do get in the way when you start doing back crosses. Now, what I did in the previous suit is that I actually took safety pins and pinned up the tails on the back of my jacket, which worked out really well, except once I was modifying my costume in a different way. I was making the sleeves a bit shorter on my shirt, and I thought, well, I need a safety pin, and I didn't have a little sewing kit with me where I keep safety pins in now, so I took one of the safety pins out here. Now, at one point in the routine, in the acts that I do a behind the back catch, and because there was a safety pin at the bottom of the split, but not in the middle, I reached behind, put my hand into this new pocket that I created, so my hand was actually inside my jacket, and the club just went straight past. That was the only time I dropped in that whole act on stage at this variety theatre, and it was because I changed my costume and didn't test it out before I went on stage. So now, no tails in the suit at all. Another thing that I asked for, of course, is one button at the front, so it's a bit more mobile when I move, but not just one button, actually 2 buttons. Check this out. Maybe you can't see it there on the video very well, but I have had this button pop off and go flying away, but then I have another button that I can just go. People in the audience never notice the difference there at all. Another thing is, they sew your pockets up, sewn up pockets so things don't get caught in the pockets. I do actually have one pocket open, which I put everything that I need on stage, because you're not a magician, you're a juggler, you don't need lots of pockets and things like that. Otherwise everything is kept sewn up. I think that's everything about this the jacket. No, it's not actually here. Diablo strings and buttons. I got buttons which are small and sewn tight against the sleeves here, which is, and they were just decorative anyway, these sleeves don't come open. So that's very important. A previous suit that I had, they had the buttons which sort of hung out from a bit and they ripped off. And in the publicity photos I had to Photoshop buttons back onto it as well. Talking about diabolo strings and buttons, here on the trousers, button, no button. Yes, they get ripped off all the time. Also with bow tie as well I have here. This bow tie fastens, it has a hook at the front. Now the hook at the front never catches the diabolo string. I used to have a bow tie with hooks at the back. Caught the diabolo string, and I'm sort of standing there trying to get the diabolo string off the back of my neck when it's wrapped around my head. Not a good look. Moving on to the shirt, sometimes I perform in white shirts like this, but they get sweaty and I have to do 2 shows in one evening, 2 50-minute shows. So now I've worked out that for temperature control and just for general ease of use and not having to do any ironing, I wear these black t-shirts on stage. And it works with my character and it still looks pretty smart, if I do say so myself. So that's what I use now, and that's cool. Moving on to shoes. Double knots on the front. Also make sure the soles have got grips on them as well, so it works on lots of different stages. Sometimes I perform on grass at a festival or something like that, on the street, at street show festivals and on proper stages. And if you look closely, maybe you can see which foot I stand on when I do pirouettes. This one. Double knots, very important. Maybe I just mentioned that, I can't remember if I said that or not. Double knots. Also have laces that are short enough that even if they do come untied, they don't get too much in the way. Hats. As I said, just bought this hat new. You may think, oh, you don't need to worry about performing, you know, in the hat or trying out the hat. That's what I thought, because it was fitting really nicely. But actually, compared to my old hats, this grips at the side of the head, my old hat gripped at the front and back. So then at one point in my routine, I tipped my head, and suddenly it was like going like this on my head. And that would never happen with my old hat, and it did with this. I should have tested it out. Didn't make me drop though. Moving on to the shirt. This is a new shirt that I have. Actually, let me just show you a little bit about this now. Because I have a thin neck, a lot of the time when I get a new shirt, it fits well around the neck, but then it's too baggy and big in other places. And this shirt is, as you see, too long on the arms. So what I need to do is actually shorten the arms down a bit, so this end of the shirt doesn't come out the bottom of my sleeve. And there's another thing that happens if I do this. You can see how loose this is here. This is a bad thing, because a loose shirt gets untucked from your trousers at the front and at the back and sticks out. And it does it because it's got too much space to move, and it comes out a bit, and then you move, bend down again, and it comes out a bit further. This is bad. So what I need to do is modify the shirt, and as you see, here's one I made earlier. Maybe you can see there that seam. Yes, the sleeves have been shortened, but also the inside you can see here. This is another place where I've actually fitted the shirt better. I've made it more narrow down the sides, so when it actually holds you tighter, like this t-shirt does that I'm wearing here, if it's tucked in and you move, because it's held tight against your back and against your front, it doesn't come out and get messed up in that way. So that's very important. Other things that I just need to quickly mention, I made a list over here as well. Yes, make sure that when you wear a belt on stage, that you can actually still move in the belt, it doesn't dig into you painfully. If you're taking any kind of costume, take spares as well. I only take one suit. That can be dry cleaned as well as I travel, but I always have, like as you see, a few shirts that I wear. I have a few of these black t-shirts that I can wear on stage as well, and I have other options. So even if I run out of all this kind of stuff, I do have other options, like another black shirt where I don't wear with my suit. If you're making a costume, don't use synthetic materials. Once I did that, and it was a pain to clean, and it was so much of a pain to clean. After my first time I wore it on stage, I had to throw it out because it smelt so badly. So make sure you're not sweating too much and things like that. Not just spare shirts, sewing kit as well with safety pins and stuff, so you can modify costumes as you go along. I think that's about all the things that I want to talk to you now. Just remember, if you change anything about your costume, practice your routine 3 or 4 times. If you change anything about your routine, practice with your costume 3 or 4 times to pick up on any of those troubles. It's well worth it, especially if you want to work in a professional environment. And even if you're performing on a juggling convention stage, if you don't want to drop as much, practice with your costume. It'll really help you out. That's it for now. Hopefully that's under 10 minutes, so I can stick it up on YouTube without any editing. Where's the stop button?